Ghost Rider and Luna Snow, two of the best seasonals this year and probably ever. Amazing for lots of different content, but in particular for ABX and ABL. So I wanted to showcase explanations and playstyles for both of these characters on separate occasions. ABX for Ghost Rider and then ABL for Luna. For Ghost Rider, this is Universal Hero, where he does have some competition, but it's the silent season. And then for Luna, it's just going to be free-for-all or no restriction Snare Day, where she also has some competition, but I still think she's one of the best options. I'm not going to go into too much detail on your other options versus Ghost Rider. If you guys want me to do that in subsequent videos where I tackle ABX and ABL days, by all means, let me know, and I will do that. But just for a shorthand, you can obviously use this team. I think it's the best team. If you don't have Robbie, you could go with Dick Rider. Alternatively, if you don't have Ghost Rider Tier 4, you could go for something like Captain Marvel with double support and using her own leadership. You can bring in Phi Lavelle, you can bring in Angela. If you don't have any of those, you could do the same supports with like a Scarlet Witch or an Odin with an Odin self-lead. And then, of course, if you don't have any of those, you could do Thor with either Beta Ray Bill lead or somebody else. Outside of any of those characters, I probably wouldn't build any of these characters, those characters, or other characters up like Silver Surfer or like Hyperion and stuff, specifically for ABX. Now, Ghost Rider is pretty straightforward to play. I'll give you guys the basics as I understand them. I'm by no means the best ABX player, but at least I can give you my way of doing things, which has, you know, gotten me pretty far, I'd say. So we're going to start off with the switch. We're going to do 3 until he throws it up. 5, 1, 2, 4. And we're going to proc, and we're just going to let 4 play out all the way to the end, and then we're going to reposition. We're going to wait until there's 2 seconds left on the 5. Then we're going to rip with the 3 again. Once we see the tier 3 is up, we're going to let that play out. Now, I can already realize a mistake in my rotation because I actually made 2 mistakes already. And it's good to show you the mistakes so that you can fix them if you're making the same mistakes. One, I triggered my rotation without triggering the Enrage proc from the Rage when I was popping the tier 3, and that is Ghost Rider's most damaging rotation, right, when you can incorporate the tier 3. So you absolutely want to have the Enrage proc up for that, which I think I'll have for the next rotation if I can fit it in here. Let's take a look. Depending on how much paralysis you get, you may or may not be able to get it to go. Okay, this is actually pretty lucky. We got a really good cancel. You cancel with the 2. And you can either do it at the end of the rotation here, or you can do it at the beginning of the next rotation. The other mistake that I made already is that I pressed the 5 after the tier 4 was charged up, and so I wasted a little bit of charge there. I've also been a little bit early. You got to wait till there's like a little bit less than 2 seconds on the 5th skill. That's really the tell there. You also, in my opinion, don't want to pop the tier 3 before you start the 3, because the 3 has a really long wind-up, and you can end up not having enough time left on your Rage proc to really get things done. There, I mean, yeah, there we didn't delay him quite enough. There is sort of like a special hidden tech of ABX, specifically ABX, not ABL, specifically ABX, where you can delay the Frost Beast going to the center of the arena and roaring. You can do it, I think, in some rare occasions in ABL, but it's much more consistent, I'd say, in ABX. But I still find it to be a pretty frustrating thing, so I don't really pay too much attention to it. The one thing you also want to keep in mind here, I've sort of gotten used to it, so I haven't talked too much about it, but the delay on the tier 3, you might want to make sure that you're not canceling out of it too early, because if you cancel out of it too early, you're not going to get the chains appearing, and you're not going to get all the stuff. Here, we didn't really have enough time. If you're noticing there's like 43, 42 seconds left, you don't really have enough time to go into another rotation, especially because Ghost Rider has a pretty long rotation. So you kind of just have to wait, and it's just kind of that would probably be considered a bad run by better players than me. But I'm not here to show you guys a perfect run, because like I said, I'm by no means I'm a perfect player. What I instead want to show you guys is just a run that I would get. And 13 million is really what I'm aiming for as my minimum. So you can look at my cards, you can look at my build, and you can use that as a guide for yourself. I probably should have popped the tier 3 sooner, but I just think it's really important to put some sort of average footage out there. Not to knock any of the ABX and ABL pros out there. There's tons of them, you know, free-to-play adventures, Koshal, Vader G, Death Proof, and all these other guys here doing fantastic work. I'm probably missing some of you. I apologize. I'm not like these guys, right? I'm not that good. But it's important to show you guys what a more average run looks like, so that if you're pretty close to where I am and you can just make these small adjustments that I'm talking about that I had to make, then it can actually be attainable for you. A couple of things to know before we move on to the Luna portion here is for Ghost Rider's build, I used Black Widow as a tier 4 striker. Now, Black Widow is your best option as a tier 4 striker for Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider is the best option as a tier 4 striker for anybody, for ABX or ABL. Unless you're using Ghost Rider. Then you can't have Ghost Rider striking for Ghost Rider. So then you got to use either Black Widow or you can use Thor. I think Black Widow is better than Thor here, mainly because she fills up the bar more. So you get even more of that increase, you get that flame damage scaling from his resistance, which is really nice. And you get an extra 20% resistance, which increases the scaling even further. Also, Black Widow just does a lot of damage with Widow's shock. But Thor's not a bad option if you don't have your Black Widow built at all. Keep in mind that the builds on these characters matter a little bit for your score. So if you're really close, if you're really on the cusp, if you're like 12.8, 12.9, and you really want to make that jump to 13, consider giving one of these characters a better Obelisk or a better CTP, especially like something like a Rage, because that can make a small but noticeable difference. Setting up for Luna in either ABX or ABL is a completely different beast. We actually start here in the menus because I have to switch her over to make sure that she's using Ghost Rider as a striker. And then secondly, what I have to do on my phone, which is a Red Magic 6, okay, it is a gaming phone, but it's a couple years old now, I have to change the graphics to very low. I can choose not to change the graphics to very low, but if I do that, I've noticed that my scores are significantly more inconsistent and also slightly worse. So I don't want that. I don't want to be sitting here doing run after run after run after run, so I want to just do this to make it as easy as possible. Now, for Luna, it's a little bit more complicated. There's lots of different team setups. There's also different philosophies on how to play her. I can't cover all of those in this video, and neither would I be the best person to do that for you, because like I said, I'm just a, above average ABX player. By no means am I a god. This is one of the more popular teams for the no restriction days, or the days where you're not restricted to females or speed types, because you can incorporate Phil Coulson. And although Phil Coulson is just an average support, you're thinking like, oh, Nick Fury's a way better support here. Even Shuri's a better support, Alex. You can use her lead instead of using White Fox's garbage lead. That's true, but then you don't get access to the guaranteed crit rate. And the guaranteed crit rate for a lot of players is what makes Luna much more consistent, and also makes her hit a lot harder because it makes her rage proc much more consistent. However, in my experience, I haven't had that. I haven't had that happen for whatever reason. It's made my runs less consistent, and it sort of is why I play Luna the way that I play, because her procking is inconsistent, and I'll explain when we're in the game. But just so that you know, this is one of the best teams, if not one of the best teams for Luna. I just personally don't like it. It's just a particular choice that I make, so I would rather substitute this team for either like a Shuri lead or a Misty Knight lead or a Nick Fury lead. Went ahead with Nick Fury lead because he has nothing else to do on my roster. Apologies in advance. I have a ton to say about Luna, so pause the video as needed if I'm talking too fast. I open with 2, delay cancel 1, cancel 5, cancel 4, cancel 3. And that's the main rotation. And then you also just do 1 and 2 as soon as they're available to, fill in the beginning and the end of your procs, as well as to trigger your next rage proc. The thing you also want to remember is that the tier 3, you trigger the tier 4 as soon as it's ready. But the tier 3, you actually hold it until your rage proc is about to expire. When the rage proc has like 1 to 2 seconds left, that's when you want to trigger your tier 3, because it has a wind up. Another thing here for the Frost Beast, or for Surtur, that I've noticed is that if you're in iframe, when he comes out of his stun, he tends to dash like this right away, and it can be very annoying, because if you unload your big combo and then he dashes out of it, and most characters just don't have the AoE to really put up with that. Now, in general, you want to open with 2 and 1 before you do 5, 4, and 3, but sometimes I find that Luna's rotation is just not, or Luna's rage procs are not consistent. And so because of that, I just pay attention to when the proc is triggering, and then I go ahead and, either do 5, 4, 3, or I do 1 and 2 if I'm trying to get it. See, right now I'm a little bit behind the proc. The proc is like ahead of me, so I'm trying to catch up to it. I'm hoping that maybe there we go. Perfect. We've caught up. We're sort of in line now with it, which is where you want to be. But it's something you just unfortunately have to keep kind of ping-ponging your eyes back and forth. If I'm being like really technical, I also collected the light a little bit too fast. You want to try to squeeze, I believe it's 2 tier 3 rotations in during that Giga light phase, that 100%, 150% score light phase. I only squeezed in about 1.5. So that was my mistake, but that's okay. We're doing pretty well here. 8.5 million is not bad. You want to open up here right away. There we go. Her 5 lingers for a really long time, so it's nice. You want to cancel out of the tier 3 before it goes too long. Like, you can instantly cancel out of the tier 3, but you certainly want to cancel out of it before too long because of the animation that it has. It sends you away from Surtur, and that can be really, really bad for targeting. You also, if you're in the corner here, you want to make sure you stay in between him and the corner. And the reason for that is when he dashes, he'll dash and stay inside the AoE of your attacks rather than dashing away from it. Hopefully that makes sense. But basically, if I had been standing in the middle, then he would have dashed to the middle, and all of the lingering AoEs for my attacks would have been dodged. Now here he's going to dash no matter what, and I can't really force him to go one way or another. I kind of goofed up my rotation here, so it's a little bit sloppy, but that's okay. We did hit 12 million, which is nice. But yeah, we missed the 4th skill twice in a row. That's just my bad play here. My finger's not really doing the right thing here. But I wanted to keep this. I want to keep this rotation for you guys, or not rotation. Keep this footage for you guys so you guys could see. That's what I would say. This is honestly an above average run for me, believe it or not. Or maybe it's about an average run for me with Luna. I have an above average build for Luna, but she's just always been a character, not always, since she came out a few months ago, she's given me headaches. And I actually had a really hard time figuring out how best to utilize her. So I wanted to start off the ABX and ABL videos with this one to showcase to you guys that you're not going to be good with every character, right? Every player out there who says, like, any player out there who says they're good with every single character is lying, right? They get somebody to pilot for them, or they hide their bad days. But like, there is no player that's perfect with every single character, because there's just too many quirks and there's too many, like, just different ways of playing characters. The game is actually very deep once you get into these, like, minute intricacies and you start pushing to the very, very high levels of scores and gameplay. It really does highlight the vast differences with how you play these characters. Like with Ghost Rider, it's all about timing, right? It's all about timing and just that one combo that you're repeating over and over and over again, and just getting that one combo down, sort of like Loki. Whereas Luna, it's much more about spam, but it's also about reading what the opponent is doing so that you can position yourself properly. Positioning is so much more important for Luna, and then also tracking your procs and things like that, because unless you're using Coulson, they're not as consistent as they are for other characters, and so you can end up in a situation where things don't necessarily go the way you want them to, even though you've adhered to the rotation exactly. So that's another thing that I wanted to highlight in my videos. You know, I know the rotation for Luna, and I do the rotation, and sometimes the proc triggers properly, and it's on time, and the damage is really good, and the score is really high, and I'm like, hey, that's great. And then other times you stick to it, and the proc doesn't activate, and the damage is garbage, and the score is bad. And so this is what it looks like. So if you're ever confused why you're doing the rotation that people told you, or that you read somewhere, or that you heard in a video, and you're not getting the results that that rotation got, there can potentially be like 20 different reasons why. Hopefully this video has shined a light on some of those reasons. But yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of this type of video, the sort of the way I've presented the content. If you like it, if you don't, why or why not. And let me know what you'd like to see for the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.